Welcome to Gail's Garden Herbs and More. This is part 2 of doing sprouting. And yesterday I talked a little bit about the beans that I used in soaking them and stuff like that. So right here is the bag. I've already soaked the bag for 5 minutes. It's good and wet, and I put my soaked beans in there, my mung beans. Then I tie it up and I'm letting it drip into this bowl. There's different ways you can do that. If you don't have a sprout bag, you can use a jar and you just put your beans or seeds or whatever you're soaking in there. Yesterday I put 5 tablespoons of mung beans to my quart of water. You let them soak about 8 hours. And then you want to drain that water off. Now it's full of vitamins and stuff, so I drain that water off and water my houseplants with it. It's good. It's beneficial. Okay, then you've got your soaked beans, and what I do is I kind of turn it around like this with the beans and get them all separated a little bit. There's still going to be some pretty close together, but you're going to be soaking those twice a day, maybe around breakfast, around dinner. Would help you to remember, depending on what kind of beans you are. And we're going to get into that. Let me go step by step on some things and give you some ideas and things to look for, things to not do, things to do. So let's get started. A couple of things that I want to tell you. Be careful. Let's start with the seeds that you're going to use. There's a lot of different types of seeds to use, but you have to be careful you don't get something that's not going to sprout. Now, these are sunflower seeds, but they've already I bought them sprouted and seasoned. You don't want to use something like that, or if the seeds have been baked, you don't want that, or, maybe they've been sprayed with something so that they won't sprout. Be mindful of what seeds that you're using. Now, you can just go ahead and buy sprouting seeds specifically for that. This is called a salad blend, and it's a lot of different little seeds, but if you'll notice, they're all pretty small. So you don't want to have great big beans and then little seeds. It's not a really good combination, but if you keep them fairly close to the same size, you can even mix your sprouts. I have done these, as you can see, but I usually do just individually by themselves, like just mung beans or something like that. Okay, so back over here to the sprout bag. Let's go over some of the things that I've said and kind of put it in order. You're going to sterilize your new sprout bag by turning it inside out and boiling it in water for 5 minutes. Or you want a nice, sterile, clean jar that you're going to put your seeds in and then fill up with good, clean water. Okay, so depending on how you're doing it. Now, you can also use seed sprouting trays. I used to have some, but I don't have any now right at the moment. So, okay, so we did that. Now, you want to make sure, as I talked about, where you're getting your seeds, that they are good for sprouting. Step 3, then you're going to soak maybe a half a cup of seed in a jar overnight, no more than 8 hours. I used 5 tablespoons in this jar to soak mine. You're going to soak maybe 16 to 32 ounces of pure water, clean, good stuff. Step number 4, after soaking the seeds, you're going to pour them into the wet, pre-washed sprout bag. You're going to make sure the bag is nice and wet with clean water. You're going to put your seeds in it, and you're going to pull the drawstring tight at the top. And then you can rinse by bathing the bag in a bowl of water for at least a minute. Then you're going to hang it on a hook or knob above a sink or wherever. I've got mine above a bowl. Or you could lay it in a dish rack or even a dishwasher rack, just somewhere that it can get some air. Okay, now number 5, you're going to rinse it twice a day, as I said, about 12 hours apart. You only just have to dip it, rinse it a little. It just takes about a minute, and then you have pretty much, that's the basics on the steps. Now let's talk about a few other things. While we're talking, I wanted to give you something pretty to look at. This is cat's ear. It looks a lot like dandelion, but it's a little different. Not quite as nutritive as your dandelions, but anyway, they're just pretty. I thought they were pretty. I wanted to give you something pretty to look at while you listen to me talk. When you're soaking your bag under the water, you want to massage and shake the seeds gently. It kind of prevents the clumping and stops the roots from going into the side wall of the bag. And you're still going to get some that grow into the bag. So I was looking at these things. I thought, oh, it's a hawk back, but no. This is the vultures looking for something to eat. I don't like that old hawk that attacked the chick the other day. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Okay, when you're rinsing, if the water looks cloudy, that usually is meaning your seeds, you've got some poor seeds. You just want to rinse an extra time per day. Maybe get some new seeds the next time for your next batch. Just keep an eye on them. They may mold easier than some of your good seed. Just kind of depends. I'm thinking too, depending what part of the country, if you're like back where there's a lot of humidity and stuff and you're doing those, you want to really keep a good eye on them, rinse them maybe a little more often. Excuse me. Okay. After 3 or 4 days of growing your seed, whether it's in the bag or the jar, remember you're rinsing it twice a day in general. After 3 or 4 days, on certain seeds you want to pull them out, like broccoli, alfalfa, and clover, and rinse gently to get the holes off. And then you'll return the clean sprouts to the bag to continue the sprouting process. Okay, and then let's say step number 4, you're going to hang your wet sprout bag until it stops dripping, and then you can store it in a bowl between rinsings. And but I don't. I just leave mine hanging. And that's why sometimes I feel like, because if the bag dries out, I like to let it, I kind of give it another little rinse with the seeds in it. Everybody's going to have different things that they do differently. So, yeah, I want to talk about some different types of seeds that you can use. Okay, let me go through a list of a few that are good for sprouting. You could do spelt, hard wheat, kamut, soft wheat, green peas, lentils, mung, sunflower. I love sunflowers. That's one of my favorite. Just make sure they're whole. You want just the seeds. Sunflower does really well. I have probably the best luck of all of them that I sprout are with sunflower seeds. That's just me. Radish. Let me talk about radish for a minute. You want to get those little leaves on the radish nice and green. So you're going to take your bag and you're going to fold down the top, kind of like a little collar, maybe 2 or 3 inches. That way it gets more light and the sprouts will start greening up and you'll get some microgreens from it. So you'll want to do that about 2 or 3 days to allow more light. And you're going to be showering it from above when you do that. Okay, let's go back to different types of seeds. You can use adzuki beans, broccoli, fenugreek, alfalfa, clover, chickpeas, soybean, chives, arugula, and there's other things. That's just some ideas of things that you can sprout. Let me think here. Not all your seeds are the same. Okay, some are going to be a little bit harder, like chickpeas, because they're a hard bean. They're a hard thing anyway, your chickpeas are. And they're poor germinators, so that probably wouldn't be the best to start out with. I mean, you probably can do it, but they're a little bit harder bean to work with. Let me think, what else? Can't think of anything else. If you have questions, you can leave them in the question box below and I'll answer what I can in the comment section. Let's talk for a minute about storing your sprouting seed. Now, not the sprouts, but the seed itself. Some seeds don't live as long as other seeds, their longevity. You want to store your seed in a cool, dry place, 60 degrees or less, in a glass jar with a tight rubber gasket inside the lid to keep out moisture and humidity. Freezing and refrigeration is the best if you have the space. Now, I did keep that little bag of mixed seeds, my salad mixed seeds, salad blend. I kept that in the little butter section of my refrigerator doors where I keep it. My other beans are in jars and seeds. But yeah, you want to think about how you're keeping your grains. Usually grains will store for at least a year. Sometimes like alfalfa can store up to 2 years. I've found those little mixed green seeds last longer than that. Now, I haven't sprouted any of those in a while. I've been sprouting other stuff. Okay, let's talk about storing your actual sprouts after you've sprouted them. Once they're mature, you can store them right in the bag in the refrigerator or your jar or whatever you're using to sprout them if you get a sprout tray. Plastic bags tend to suffocate your sprouts. Plastic bags are not a good idea. Okay, you might want to get 2 or 3 bags or jars going and kind of rotate between the kitchen and the refrigerator. It's up to you. I usually just use one. I don't use sprouts probably as much as I should because they really are beneficial for you. When you're keeping them in the fridge after they've already sprouted and everything, you want to sprout them even then about maybe once every 3 days to keep them moist, depending on the variety. You can keep them sometimes. Some of them will last a couple weeks, others only a few days. You just have to keep an eye on them. They're great, but you have to keep on top of it. Another thing I want to talk about is if you do have a sprout bag, how to clean it. You want to moisten it, make sure it's good and moist inside and out, and then you're going to rinse it real good with hot tap water. You can use a little, make sure it's a new, clean, soft sponge and gently wash it. Now my bag is made out of hemp, the strands, it's a hemp material. So, and then after you've got it good and clean, and sometimes the little sprouts, their seeds grow into the side of the bag. That's why you want to gently, when you are sprouting them, you go to rinse them, you can gently move the seeds around with your hands so the sprouts don't grow into the side of the bag as easy, but you're still going to get a few that do. So when you're cleaning your bag after you're all done, you know, that's why you really need to make sure, feel it, you get all the little sprouts out of the little areas and stuff. And then you can boil it for 5 minutes and put it in a safe, clean place so it'll be ready to use next time that you want to do that. If you see some cloudy water or mold or a sour smell when rinsing, you need to get rid of that seed and you need to sterilize your bag by boiling it. So that's something you want to do too. I don't know. Let me think. I guess that's about all. Like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comment section below. Give me a thumbs up or a comment, or subscribe if you haven't. Giving the thumbs up and commenting helps YouTube. They say, oh, this must be a worthy video, and they push it out a little more. If I'm going to be putting the work into making these videos, I want to be sharing it with someone, not just talking to myself. So, although I'm hoping my family will keep my videos for posterity, I don't know if they even watch them, but yeah, so do that. And I just hope you all stay safe. You need to do things like making sprouts and keep your system up, good and healthy. Eat good and healthy. Stay away from bad stuff like hydrogenated foods and MSG. You want your immune system strong to fight off not only COVID-19 but other viruses and colds and things. And you all have a blessed day. It is just absolutely beautiful here the last couple days. I hope it is where you're at as well. God bless, and we will talk to you next time.